everybody, welcome to week 2 of CIT 12. Happy MLK Day. Hopefully you guys got the day off and were able to enjoy the 3-day weekend. But yeah, week 2 for us is going to be our first sort of normal week. As quickly as possible, I wanted us to sort of get into the rhythm of what this class is going to be from week to week. So with that in mind, there's a couple things to note. One is if you didn't get some of the stuff accomplished in week 1, remember you have a 1-week late period. So you can click on weekly content. You'll still see that week 1 folder. You can click there and see everything that we did in week 1. I know some people added a little bit late in the week. So, you know, do what you need to do to get stuff done in week 1. The only real graded assignment, I believe, was the discussion. So if you haven't done your introduction discussion, make sure you do that before those assignments disappear at the beginning of week 3, which will be this upcoming Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Also, if for some reason you don't get stuff done, you need to find that information. The week 1 sort of My IT Lab setup information is always available under the syllabus link on the left-hand side of the page in the main navigation area. So the syllabus has a copy of the syllabus and my contact information, but it also has some of that week 1 information that you might find useful. All right. Now, as for week 2, if you click on weekly content, click on the week 2 link, you are going to see everything you need to do in week 2. But I'm going to discuss it here like I do most weeks, just so that you sort of understand why I'm having you do what you're doing, and maybe kind of explain some of the reasoning behind stuff and whatnot. So first thing to do is to read chapter 1. Chapter 1 is all about using technology to change your world. And it talks about a lot of the changes that are happening sort of because of technology and sort of the world around us. Now, one of the things that I kind of pull from that chapter and I've put into our lecture video, which you'll also see in the week 2 folder, is sort of how technology is changing things and how we need to adapt to that change. And I'm looking specifically at how technology tends to enter an industry, right, and disrupt it. Technology will enter an industry and make some skills more valuable and some skills less valuable. One of the things that I often do in my face-to-face classes is I show them a video from the Porsche factory where you can see these gigantic robots and they're doing all these spot welds and everything's very precise and all the welding's done by robots, which is, they actually do have some human welders at the Porsche factory that kind of go in and do some spot stuff and check to make sure the robots did everything right. But they just don't have as many as they used to. Robotics really entered that industry and made it so that they didn't need to hire very many welders. Now, the welders they do hire are still paid very well, but there's just not as many of those positions available. And so it's maybe a poor choice of career at this point. At least it's not as good as it used to be. The reason I show that video is at the very end, he talks about their interiors and how everything is hand-stitched leather. The idea is that technology entered the industry and it made one skill less valuable, but it didn't affect another skill. And in fact, we might actually appreciate the hand-stitched leather more because so many things are made by robots. It may have actually made that more valuable. Now, maybe in the future, somebody will come out with a great leather stitching robot and then, you know, everything changes. But at least for now, it disrupted stuff and it did it in a way that was sort of arbitrary. And so that's what my sort of lecture will talk about. How technology is changing things and how we sort of need to roll with those changes. Now, that leads us directly into our discussion for this week. The discussion for this week, I have you check out 2 different sources. One is a study done by Georgetown. It was done in 2011, so it's a little old. I'm really, really hoping that in the next year or 2 they come out with an update. But that study looks at college majors, right? Doesn't look at what job that people end up getting, because a lot of people, you major in one thing, but you don't actually work in that thing when you grow up, right? Our lives kind of meander along our own paths, and we make decisions as we go and things change. But how well does that college degree set you up for success in future? And so it just looks at college majors and how well people with those majors did in the long run. What are the average income for people who have that degree? How many percentage of people are employed? how many people are actually working in the field that they said they were going to work or that they have their degree in. Lots of different information, right? There's a ton of it there. And so I want you to take a look at that and take your major and do a little research. See what is the average income for somebody who has the degree that you're going for. How many people are employed? Is it 90% of people have a job who have that degree, or is it 80% or 95, 98? Some of those are really, really high. People who have this degree are generally employed. And so you can get information to see how much your college major, your degree, is going to be worth in the long run. It's really about setting expectations, right? Money isn't everything, but it at least if you're choosing a major because you want to do good in the world and you know exactly what the average income is for somebody with that degree, then you're not going to be surprised. At the end of the day, that's all that matters, that you're not surprised, right? The second source is from the state of California, and they actually do occupational job guides. Now this, we're not looking at the major. We don't care what major you have. We care about the actual job that you get once you're done, right? And so think about what it is you want to do. If you're getting a degree in social work because you want to be a social worker, okay, so the first one's looking at people who have a degree in social work, regardless of what job they get. This second one from the state of California, the occupational guides, it's looking at people who are working in social work, regardless of what degrees they have. Although I think for social work, you actually do have to have a degree in social work, but that's not true for all professions, right? And so look at the job that you want and then see, they do a lot of really great studies to say how many people are actually employed, what's the unemployment rate, what's the average income for the state of California, and you can even break it down to specifically for Fresno County. Right? How much do social workers make in Fresno County? How much do computer programmers make in Fresno County? How much do police officers make in Fresno County? And so it'll give you really good specific information if you end up getting that job that you actually want. All right. Between those two things, you're going to get some information. Oh, sorry. And that state of California report will also, for many majors, tell you what they expect the job atmosphere to be in the next few years, right? So it's actually going to give a forecast for how many computer programmers we think we're going to need in 5 years. Is that number going up? Is it declining? So you can kind of see maybe this industry that I'm entering into, is it something that's on the rise? Is there going to be a job by the time I've graduated? Or is it something that's on the decline and I need to think, oh boy, if this continues, is that a major that I want to pursue? All right. So it's information that's hopefully going to give you a better picture for what you want to sort of say, how can I best navigate this? And maybe you end up in a position where you're like, gosh, social work jobs maybe are on the decline, or maybe they don't earn as much. Is there something like that I can see where, oh wow, this actually makes more money, or it's a job that's on the incline? And it may help you sort of make those decisions. Now, this is a technology course, and it's going to seem biased because when you look at it, quite frankly, if you all wanted to be petroleum engineers, you would be doing very well, right? Like that's sort of the highest college degree you can get, and engineering jobs and computer jobs tend to fare very well, as do healthcare jobs. If you want to be a doctor, you are going to do just fine in this world. But for others, it kind of helps you get good information. All right, so that's the thing. Make observations. You don't have to make specific observations. Something may hit you that you're like, wow, this is really important. I was really surprised by the fact that this major made so little, or I was really surprised by the fact that the state of California says that this job is really on the incline. They're expecting to see a lot of job growth over the next 5 years. And so then take those observations and put them into a discussion. Tell us what you learned about your major and your future job. And then read other people's posts and reply to one of them. Keep the discussion going. All right. So that's our discussion for this week. It's all about navigating the modern economy, looking at what is and a little bit of what's projected in order for you to make a good decision for when you graduate. All right. Then Chapter 1 quiz. There's a quiz on chapter 1 since that's what we read this week. So make sure you do the quiz in chapter 1. You'll find that in Blackboard in the week 2 folder. Eventually I'll just stop repeating that. And then our first My IT lab, if you haven't already done it, I opened it a little bit early so that when you first registered, you'd actually see a lab there. But if you haven't done it yet, then go ahead and do that. This is sort of when we're officially assigning it here in week 2. So it's Office features. And really, it kind of goes through all 3 of the programs that we're going to be studying this semester, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. But it's sort of the most basic features, things that are in particular common across the different programs. So how do you launch a program? How do you open a blank document? It uses Word for those, but the process is actually fairly similar for Excel or for PowerPoint. How do you customize the quick access toolbar? How do you customize the ribbon? Those are things that are common across all of the different programs in Office. So the idea here is that you're going to be learning a few sort of fundamental things, some sort of quality of life things that'll make it easier. If you really want this, a feature that you use often to be right front and center on the ribbon, you can customize your ribbon to make it that way. And so it'll cover that, even though it may use a specific program, it'll actually be the same process for all the different programs in Microsoft Office. So that's your lab this week. The Office Features lab should be fairly quick. I think it's only 17 questions, so it's slightly shorter than some of the other ones. It's not the shortest. There's one that's actually shorter, but it's a little bit shorter, sort of a good introduction lab. All right, so then do that. Remember, you can take the quiz as many times as you want. You can take the lab as many times as you want, and your highest score will be the one that gets counted. You've got through this week to do it, so during week 2 is when you should be doing those assignments. But again, you've got the 1 week late period, so if life gets hectic for you in week 3, you'll still have access to these assignments we're assigning today. But in week 3, that first discussion from last week is gone. So hopefully you'll get sort of that sense of the pace, all right? Again, if you have any questions on any of these assignments, feel free to email me. If you have a question that's related to content or something that I think a lot of people are going to want to have answers to, then just holler and I may actually put your question in this video. All right. So hopefully you guys are having a great week too. It's a short week, but for us, it's going to feel like a completely normal week. If you have any questions, holler. My name is Brian, and I'll see you online.